Hello everybody and welcome back to Firefield Junction. Today we've got a sort of a workbench video, I suppose we could call it. And today's subject, as we can see, is the Hornby GWR Class 800. Now, if you've seen the review of this model, you will probably know that my particular one, I'm pretty sure I'm the only person who's suffered with this sort of issue with this model. But basically, my particular example, it has a couple of issues with one of the bogies. And because of that issue, the model doesn't run very well. It can't pull all of the coaches around the track, and so it's generally struggles to haul basically the train that it's supposed to haul. Also with that, there's an issue of the bogie frame, because the bogie that has the issue is this particular one here. The bogie frame on it also doesn't sit correctly on the rest of the bogie, so it hangs down, it catches things as it runs around, and just generally the bogie just isn't fit for purpose anymore. So in today's video we're going to be hopefully fixing the model, and we're going to be replacing this bogie with a brand new one, and hopefully after all these years of me having to put up with this model in this state, hopefully I'll finally be able to get some decent running out of it. And so after contacting Hornby a bit and a bit of a discussion over the phone, they very kindly sent me, also I didn't get it for free, I did have to pay for it, but they sent me a replacement front bogie for this model. So hopefully today we can fit this new bogie, remove the old one, replace it with this one, and hopefully everything will work fine and the model will finally work as well as it should do. But obviously first things first, before we can fit the new bogie, we've obviously got to get the new one off. Now first things first, before we do that, is we need to get the body off. Now the Hornby Class 800 bodies, they're not screwed on, they are just held on by a few clips. However, it can be a little bit difficult to do, so what I'll do is I'll come back in a second once I've removed the body, and we'll carry on from there. So I'll see you in a second. Okay, and here we are, the body is off, a little bit fiddly, but it was a lot easier than I was expecting it to be. The body, there's no wires going to it, everything's done by spring-loaded contacts. So we can see in there we've got contacts in there for the interior lights and everything else. So we don't need the body anymore, so we can put that to one side and we won't need that to the end now. And now we can see how the model is inside. So we can see we've got the nice big motor in the middle with a nice big weight on top of it. And then we've also got the interior seating detail and everything. And as we can see, as you can probably see there, we've got drive shafts going out from the motor and going to each bogie. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to remove the seating detail and the weight and everything, so that we can actually get to the worm drive and everything for the bogie here. So the weights and the seating are just held in by screws, so we should be able to fairly easily take those out. So if we just do the weight first, it should come out fairly easily. There we go, that's one of the screws for the weight, and if we do the other one, and there we are, and then that's the weight out. And the next thing to do is to the seating, and there's only two screws holding this in, I believe. So if we do the first one, which is down the back here, there we are, that comes out fairly easily. Then the second one is just down here. If we can get it to come out, it's being a little bit irritating. There we go. And now we need to be careful here because there is wires coming up here to the circuit board here. We can see we've got the wires coming from the bogie coming up to the circuit board here. And we've also got wires coming off for the lights and everything. So we want to be really careful that we don't damage that. If we very, very gently lift the seating up, if we just gently roll it over to one side, we can see there, we've then got, we can now see the motor more easily, and we can see the mechanism more easily as well. Now there are plugs going from the circuit boards and everything going down into here, because obviously the main circuit board where the DCC sockets and everything is in the fuel tank area, which I think is very good for me because it does mean you don't have to worry about removing the body to fit a chip and everything. But anyway, obviously the next thing to do is we actually now need to disconnect the old bogie from the rest of the model. So we've got the drive shaft here. Now I believe the new bogie does come with the worm gear and everything in place. Yes, it does. So it should be fairly easy to take this off. What we need to do is we need to actually take the cover for the bogie off first, and then it should come out fairly easily. But I'll come back in a second once I've disconnected the bogie, because I think it'd be quite hard to film the next section of me removing the bogie and everything, so it's going to be a little bit fiddly. But I'll come back in a moment once I've removed the old bogie, and then we'll carry on from there. So I'll see you in a moment. Okay, here we are. It's a few minutes later. It didn't take as long as I was expecting it to. But the old bogie is removed, as you can see. It's just here. So we can see I've desoldered the pickups. We've got the worm drive here for it as well, and then we've just got the cover for it as well, which goes over the worm drive. Now quickly, before we fit the new bogie, I will just show you why I've had to remove this old bogie. One of the reasons is one of the axles on it isn't driven by the motor when it should be, which I really don't know why that's the case. But it was like that when I bought it new. But as we can see, if we turn this axle here, as you can see the gears turning. However, if I turn the other one, you can see the gears aren't turning, and that's one of the problems that I've been having, in that obviously because one of the axles isn't driven, it just can't manage all of the coaches, so it just struggles on corners and stuff. I'm not sure why this axle isn't driven, because there is a gear on it, because I have checked that, there is a gear on it, but obviously for whatever reason it's just not making contact with the rest of the mechanism for whatever reason. Another reason is the bogie frame doesn't go on properly anymore. If I just show you the bottom, I'm not sure how well you'll be able to see, but this screw here, as you can see, it is in there, but it's really far up inside the bogie. Now it should be like the other one here, which as you can see is roughly level with the bottom of the bogie. So something's obviously gone wrong with this screw, and because of that, the bogie frame doesn't sit on properly. As you can see there, there's a gap between the bottom of the bogie there, between the I can't remember what it's called now, the base plate and the actual bogie block, the actual main, I suppose that's the block of the bogie, the main section here. There's a gap between there, and that shouldn't be there. And because of that, because the bogie frame is slightly lower than it should be, it catches on points and any other sort of things that are around the layout, and that's obviously not good. So that's basically why I've had to remove this bogie, mainly because of the hauling issues. But that bogie, it won't go in the bin. I will salvage what I can from it. Then anything else that isn't really any good, that will probably just get binned. But I should be able to salvage most parts from that. That maybe some spare axles, the pickups, and some of the gears and everything, and maybe the bogie frame, I suppose, as well. But I'm not sure. But I'll see what I can salvage from the bogie. But in the meantime, that can be put to one side because we don't need that anymore. And now we can focus on fixing the new bogie, which we have here. And obviously, the first thing I need to do, so I just need to put a little bit of solder on the two tabs here and here for the pickups, and then I need to take the top of the worm gear off here. I need to take this cover off here. I'll probably take the worm drive out as well, and from there I guess we'll hopefully providing everything goes well, we should be able to get the new bogie fitted and get her back on the track, and hopefully she'll run it as good as she should do. So I'll get the new bogie fitted, and I'll see you in a second. Okay, we're finally back. Wow, I have to say, that was probably one of the most stressful moments of my life, I reckon, doing this. It did go fairly well, but still, it was incredibly stressful. The new bogie has been fitted, but it was literally nowhere near as easy as what I was expecting it to be. Obviously, getting the old bogie off was fairly easy, and fitting the new one, it would have been easier. Except I just had quite a lot of trouble just getting. The main issue was just trying to get the solder to flow onto the contact pads on the bogie. It was way harder than I thought it was going to be. I did end up ever so slightly causing one of the bogie frames to melt slightly and sag slightly to one side. Luckily I was able to fix that, and it does seem to be straight again now. But the solder, it just really didn't want to flow onto the metal pickups very easily. I ended up having to scratch the pickups quite hard, and what I mean by that is just by using one of my little multi-tools and using the little saw tool on it, I had to roughen up the surface on the surface of the pickups, because that's, believe it or not, solder does seem to flow better onto a rougher surface rather than a smooth one. So if you're having issues getting solder to flow onto maybe a piece of rail or onto a locomotive's pickups, or just a piece of metal in general, if you get a metal file or something, or just roughen up the surface of the piece of metal somehow, it does seem to work better. And by doing that, I was able to eventually get the solder to flow onto the pickups, but it was incredibly stressful. Now hopefully the connection between the pickups and the wires should be strong enough that they don't come off. If they do come off, well then so be it, I'll have to go back in and fix that. But there should be a strong enough connection now that those pickups shouldn't come off. And to be honest, the wires don't move much anyway, so there shouldn't really be any serious movement there to cause the wires to come off. But obviously, now that that's done, finally, many minutes of stress out the way, all that's left to do now is, obviously, as you can see, I've screwed the seating detail and everything back in, just so everything was properly back together and everything. But all we need to do now is we just need to put the locomotive's weights back in, put the body back on. Well, actually, I won't put the body back on yet, but I'll get the weights back in, and then we'll give her her first test, just to make sure that everything's gone on well, and that the pickups are definitely making good connection, and that she's definitely not going to cut out very easily on any dead zones or anything. So if we just get the weights back in, nice and easy to do, a lot easier than what I just had to do. There we go, the weight's back in. Now that that's done, if I just move the towel out of the way, all we need to do now is we'll just head over to the usual spots that we go to when we put locos on the track. We'll head over there, get her on the track, and we'll give her a test. Obviously, because this bogie is brand new, we'll give her running in for a few minutes in each direction, just to get all the gears and everything properly lubricated in there. To be honest, in all honesty, I wasn't actually expecting the bogie to come lubricated, but it has come with a lot more than it needs. But it has come with a lot of Hornby's typical lubricants. They seem to use several different lubricants, because a lot of my Hornby models, I've probably seen about 3 different types of lubricants that on them from new. But this bogie, it has got lubricant on it, fresh from the factory from Hornby, which is good. So we'll give it a run round, get the bogie properly lubricated and everything, because to be honest, the bogie, just nudge the track there, because the bogie does seem a little bit stiff. But obviously it is a brand new bogie, so it's going to be a bit stiff. So obviously we all are first thing, we're a bit groggy and everything. But we'll get it run round, get the lubricant all circulated around, get everything loosened up. And once she's had a nice little running in period, we'll get the coaches hooked up, and then we'll see if, after all this, it better work properly after this. Yeah, we'll see then with the new bogie fitted, whether she now can handle all of the coaches on my layout. I do have a couple of small second radius curves on my layout, and I know that's not very good, but obviously when I do a proper layout, I won't be using them. But the model should still be able to handle tight curves like that really without any issues, especially with how heavy this model is, because it is quite heavy. Or it probably could be heavier, so I might add some weight in the future. But as it is, it's still pretty heavy, so it shouldn't really have any trouble hauling the coaches around the track. Obviously, because mine only had three of the four axles driven, obviously that really didn't help. But hopefully now, with all-wheel drive, like we should do, hopefully we should be able to haul everything properly now. But anyway, let's head over to the layout. Even though sorry, start that again, because we already are at the layout. We'll head over to the track, and yeah, I need to stop rambling on. We'll head over to the layout, and we'll get her running and see what she's like. Okay, here we are. The model's on the track. She's ready to go. She's got programmed her number into the controller. Obviously, she has got lights. If we just put this on, we can see what the tail lights there. And they are incredibly bright. But if we put the headlights on, they are even brighter. On camera, as you can see, and even in real life, not looking through the camera, those headlights are incredibly bright. Well, see, that is quite realistic, because the classic 100 lights are very bright in real life. But God, they are very blinding. So we'll turn those off for the moment. We don't need those for testing. Now, obviously, she is DCC fitted, but obviously pretty much almost all my models are. She's got a lens decoder currently in the motor unit. She will be getting sound in the future, but obviously she's got a lens decoder at the moment, and they are very good decoders. But let's just give her a wiggle back and forth to make sure that everything's gone well and she runs perfectly. She does. And that is incredibly smooth. To us, the motor sounds a lot louder with the body on. She sounds way louder than that, because well, to us, without the motor on, the motor's making barely any noise, but when she's got the body on, you really can hear the motor quite a lot. And that is really smooth. Brilliant. So next thing to do is I'll get them running in. I'll give her about probably 5 minutes in each direction just to get the new front bogie properly lubricated and everything, get all the gears fed in. And once we've done that, we'll get the body back on, get the coaches hooked up, and then we'll give her a proper first test. So I'll see you in a moment when she's finished running in. Okay, we are back. The model has finished running in. I gave her about 10 minutes in each direction just to make sure that the bogie was properly lubricated. As we can see, the body's back on, she's ready to go. I've coupled up the rest of the coaches, so we've now got the full length train on the track. Now if we've been successful, with the old bogie, the model would struggle to get going from this position with the majority of the train on a curve. But if we've been successful, the model should have pretty much no trouble hauling the full train from this point. So I think without further ado, let's give her some power and let's see if she can actually now handle the full train. If she does struggle a bit, then I understand, because she is partly on a second radius curve and these coaches do have a fair bit of drag to them, so if she does still struggle a bit, I'll probably just give all of the coaches a slight oil on the axles just to loosen them up a bit. But if she's a lot better than she was before, then that's definitely a win in my book. But anyway, let's give her some power and let's see if she can now run like she should. Well, I think we can say that that's been very successful. With the old bogie, she would have just had no chance of doing what she's just done. If she still had her old bogie, she would have been struggling like mad there trying to get going. As we can see, got a new bogie fitted. Now that she's got all-wheel drive, she's having no trouble hauling the full-length train. This is how she should have been from the factory. In all honesty, I'm just over the moon right now. I'm so happy that I finally have an 800 that actually works properly. I'm just so stoked, really. This is the first ever time she's actually ran like this. Even at this speed, which is a fairly decent speed, with her old bogie she still would have struggled on these corners over here. But as we can see, no trouble at all. So happy.